What's good, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Let me turn my little thingy on here. All right. Try to make it nice and entertaining. I wanted to do a quick video. It's about to settle down for the night, and I stumbled across, I think, an interesting conversation from Native Land podcast. Now, Native Land, they're very much sticklers of being a part of iHeartRadio. They do not like their content being used. So I'm probably going to keep this up. I'm going to do the best I can to keep it monetized. I'm going to put a picture over it. So it's not the video freezing, but it's the picture over it, and you'll hear the sound in the background, and I'll come on and break it up and give some my thoughts and opinions about it. I am claiming fair use. Where's my fair use sign? I am an academic and trying to portray some information out here. But I wanted to get this information out because I thought it was a good show, and I'm going to try to pause it at some different moments here and try to exemplify what I think part of the problem is. And so, Native Land, if you're not familiar with it, are three co-hosts, three hosts. Tiffany Cross, who used to be on MSNBC, Angela Rye, former attorney, maybe she currently is an attorney, and who was often a commentator on CNN. Tiffany Cross again was on MSNBC. I don't know anything else about her. And then former city mayor, gubernatorial candidate for the state of Florida, Andrew Gillum. And so, but they had a guest on this particular episode, Bakari Sellers. And the name of this is Who Told Us We Were at War, Native Land Mini Pod. Bakari Sellers is talking about the war that's going on between black men and black women. Being that this is a lot of what we talk about in this space, I thought it was very much appropriate to discuss this and analyze this and break it down. And while it's going to be difficult for me to show, and I do suggest you go over there and actually watch it if you want to see the facial expressions, particularly from Angela Rye, and the lack of eye contact from Andrew Gillum. This dude is looking at his watch. He's looking at the floor, completely disinterested in the conversation, which is weird to me. I mean, you invite this man on, and the only one who's seemingly to be engaged. I only watched about 5 minutes of it. And I said, you know what? If I want to watch this, I might as well do a reaction to it. The only one who seemed to be engaged is Tiffany Cross to what Bakari Sellers is saying. Bakari Sellers was also himself a commentator on CNN, and was the member of the House of Representatives for the state of South Carolina. So just really interesting to me that this is what they were doing. This is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. All right. So again, I'm going to put up something to let's see. I'll put this on the screen here. So this is them. They're about to start speaking. This is the beginning of it. Who told us we were at war? This is about men and women being at war. So I'm probably going to keep the fair use up there for the entirety of it. So I am going to have to, again, I'm going to have to put this on to, I'll play it a little bit faster speed, and hopefully I won't get any dings. But even if I do, if the video does get demonetized, I would ask that you hit the like button. Consider sending the brother some cash apps, because it may get demonetized. But I think this is I think what Bakari Sellers is saying is very appropriate for what we got going on here. So here we go. Again, I got to freeze it here. So this is me freezing it here. All right, here we go.
Welcome home, guys. It is time for our first mini pod with our new co-host, Bakari Sellers. And so if you listen to this week's...
Oh, I didn't hear that. The new co-host. I didn't hear that before. Let me turn it up a little bit on my end. Okay.
Episode, we got into something. Bakari, you were making the point that black men find it hard to breathe amidst black girl magic. I don't want to misquote you. I'm going to give you a chance. I want to give you a chance, but we want to hit that topic because I do want to offer you the chance for some clarity and have a quick discussion. But we're also going to get to another topic that touches on black conferences, black businesses, and how we judge them perhaps unfairly. But before we get into that conversation, I did want to revisit this idea that black men can't breathe.
I think it's we were having a conversation about Stephen A. Smith and the transition and how that relates to like the thought. And one of the things we were saying is that
I don't know what they said about Stephen A. Smith, but I know that there's another video that I may actually speak about, because he has been taking hits because he went after Jasmine Crockett while not going after any of the Trump policies. And I know a lot of particularly persons of color have not been very happy about that. Now, again, as I mentioned to you, right? So I froze it, and then now here's the actual video that as it's in the current timeline. You can already look at Angela Rye sitting there with her arms folded, a complete look of disgust and anger on her face, and Andrew Gillum is already starting looking at the floor, not paying attention. I don't know if he's on his phone checking his text messages. I think he's getting text messages because you'll see him look at his watch if you watch the actual video. But I just want to point this out, how disinterested these persons already are, and there's already a sense of animosity that's going on here. Here we go. We'll continue on. I got to freeze it again.
You know, we haven't had wholesome conversations around Black men from a policy perspective. That requires listening to them. And the other thing is, and something I hear often, which in the spaces that I'm in, is in this era of Black girl magic, is there space for Black men to breathe and lead? And there is.
I think that was devastating, or devastating, or actually very appropriate. And I'm glad that this brother said it, to breed and to lead. What does that mean, though? Again, look at Angela Rye's face. Gillum seems to be the extreme right there, seems to be completely disinterested. What does it mean to breathe, to be able to move about, to be able to inhale, exhale, go about in your autonomy, go about in your energy, go about handling business, being able to stick your chest out, hold your head up high, and yet lead? This is what Bakari Sellers is talking about in this era of Black women moving up and becoming more successful. What does that mean for the males, for the men?
This theory that is pervasive, I think, that, and I know my friend Andrew probably will say it ain't rooted in nothing, and that also may have some validity. I just don't want to discount the thought that during this period where we've seen this attention, and most of it is earned attention on Black women, their success, their educational achievement, entrepreneurial success, etc. Black men are trying to figure out their place in our communities, and what once was a place of leading your household and leading your communities. And
okay, well, let me pause it right there, because I'm going to get some people are obviously going to give some pushback against this. When you look at the numbers, Black men still have more entrepreneurial businesses, still have more women. Black women in particular are catching up and are opening up more, but they still have more, and they still make more on average. The only aspects that Black women lead or are more successful at this current time is in home ownership and in education. But that education has not translated to making more money. So again, as I had conversations with other persons in the past, why is it that these men are looked down upon? And here again, Bakari Sellers is talking about, there's all these successes, but these successes, I'm saying this now, are not translating into marriages, long-lasting relationships, and partnering up. And so this comes with a sense of looking down. And when this kind of language is talked about and said and stated, and these persons who are looking at these pods, and I want to read through some of the comments here at the end. When they take a look at this, I don't know if I'm going to play it all, because I really don't want to get any strikes about this. When you take a look at this, right, we look at our numbers, we're still failing a lot, or as far as relationships wise. And this success and the moving up and catching up is causing an effect of looking down upon the men. And when there's language like this and talking down upon like this, then it seems as if Black men are just dusty and not doing their thing. But more and more Black men are becoming successful, moving into the middle class and moving up. So keep that in mind, right? Is there much work to be done? Of course, there's work to be done across the entirety, both the genders and the race. However, it needs to be pointed out.
Being able to be that voice and be able to speak out. There are many people wondering if that role is still there, or if their voice has to shrink during this era of uplift. Now, I know the quick response that people will say is, oh, well, they can coexist. Like there's nobody pushing you out.
That's how I feel.
And I think that the response would.
And Tiffany Cross said, "That's how I feel." Let me rewind that here. She was very mouse-ish about it.
Of uplift. Now, I know the quick response that people will say is, oh, well, they can coexist. Like there's nobody pushing you out.
That's how I feel.
And I think that the response would be that sometimes it is so loud, not not literally loud,
Mhm.
but it's so loud as we praise, as we should, that many times we feel as if our accomplishments, our successes, or even more importantly, our trials and tribulations go unnoticed. And that pushes us further in the back of our homes and further in the back of our communities. And I think that's reflective of some of the things you see.
What does it being noticed look like? Like, what is the thing that we should do? Because I think a lot of us celebrate each other. Angela says often, we've all kind of adopted it, but I think you were the first to say, like, we all we got. And sometimes
Oh,
that
no.
means
No, she definitely didn't
I did
create
not
that.
create.
Okay, so this is important here. So you can see the look on her face, right? So Tiffany Cross just said, "We look at each other and see we're all we got." Now, I am not exactly sure. I think what she's talking about, Tiffany Cross is saying, as far as race, black men, black women, we're all we got. And Tiffany and Angela Rye is saying, no, that's not true. And this part I do want you to play because I want to play that because I do want it to be seen
That. I wish
okay. Well, I
could have
gave her, but I think you.
that she's not agreeing with that.
Some of the things you see.
What does it being noticed look like? Like, what is the thing that we should do? Because I think a lot of us celebrate each other. Angela says often, we've all kind of adopted it, but I think you were the first to say, like, we all we got. And sometimes
Oh,
that
no.
means.
No, she definitely didn't
I did
create
not
that.
create that.
Okay, well, I gave her.
I mean,
I gave.
that's like that's like a team thing, you know.
Crazy. This is this, and remember the name of this podcast or the name of this episode is "Who Told Us We Were at War." This is this woman saying, "No, we're not all we got." Wonder why a lot of times black men are going after more amenable, nicer, different women. Here it is. She tried to, and Tiffany Cross is trying to say, listen, what do we need? Tiffany Cross, I think, is actually having a good conversation. What do we need to do to make the men feel as if they're not second class or second to us? That's essentially what she's asking. And when she tries to attribute it to another sister, she's like, "Oh no, that's not how I feel. That ain't me." Crazy.
Okay. In the context of this conversation, I gave Angela credit for it, but it was a popular saying. But I think in the context that we've said it, sometimes it's amongst our, girl group of machetes, we all we got. And I've asked other people, like, but we ain't all you got. Like, you have a wonderful doting husband or wonderful partner. And the feedback I've gotten from women is, yeah, but it's not like the love I experience with you guys. Like, yes, my husband is amazing. I love him. But if I step out with you all, y'all notice my shoes, my fit, my earrings, like from head to toe. The love we give each other is not a diss to black men, but it is something beautiful that we experience. I wonder why in that.
I don't understand why that needs to be a separate thing because you're going out with your friends. This is why I was kind of lost in the conversation. Like, okay, you go out with your friends and you have a good time. And I'm really starting to come around to the camp. I'm not an anthropologist and all that, but I'm really starting to come around to the camp that the how do we how are we supposed to show up for each other? You can't. I'm really in my later years are getting to this that maybe we're asking too much from each other, from our spouse. Your spouse can't do everything. If you need support, uplift from girlfriends, go get it. If you need support and uplift from your boys and you feel as if you can't talk to this person, maybe we shouldn't be trying to put everything, right? Maybe your romance and one ride or die person is your husband or your wife, your spouse, but girl time and boy time is really essential. Where sometimes you need to be with a sage elder. Sometimes you get these love and just different things from different people. I get not wanting to be intimate with those persons, but what exactly are we talking about here? What are we doing here? Why does that have to be a competition? Why does it have to be a competition about how much of you there is to go around? I guess is the best way to put it. And again, I look when I talk about being an anthropologist, which I am not. I'm saying that if you go back, 10,000 years when we're living on the plains in the prairies of Africa, what guys went out and hunted and they were gone for days. They went out for wars and gone for days. What are we talking about here? And now now we're in this close compacted environment and we're stuck all the time with one person. Maybe that's not the way it should be. Maybe I mean really ought to take a real hard look at that. I'm not saying I'm not advocating for poly or anything like that. I'm not advocating for that. But we're in this place now where we can't figure this thing out. And with the rise of ladies, it's becoming even more difficult to figure it out. Let me rewind it a little bit here. Just trying to get your thoughts. A lot of these conversations I'm having out loud here.
Space with Black men feel crowded. It's the Black men, but it is something beautiful that we experience. I wonder why in that space would Black men feel crowded out, and take that as though we don't need very much our counterparts, very much our companions to be leaders, to be at our side, and to help confront everything that we're going
I
through
think
now.
people naturally ask the question, is that need there? I mean, we're still having.
Yes.
People ask the question, is that need there? And I still want you to look at Andrew Gillum and Angela Rye. Their facial expressions tell it all. Tiffany is trying to have some serious conversations, and those two are just not engaged, which is crazy to me, right? So this is a good segment here, but I'm going to try to let it play a little bit more without being interrupted so we can get the context of what they're saying here.
To help parts, very much our companions, to be leaders, to be at our side, and to help confront everything that we're going through now.
People naturally ask the question, is that need there? I mean, we're still having.
Yes,
I'm
telling you, it's here.
I hear you, and I respect that. That's why we're friends, right? We value that need. We hear those things, but I also think that it's about we're still. I mean, we really are trying to have conversations, and particularly amongst Black men, about defining masculinity. We're trying to make sure that we can define masculinity without, one, being toxic, or two, ushering a new era of patriarchy, right? I mean, that's a real delicate.
Now you see Angela perking up, and she's nodding her head there. I'm not going to play it, but in this segment right here, she's perking up. She doesn't want toxic masculinity, and she doesn't, whatever that would mean to her, and she doesn't want the return of the patriarchy, whatever that would mean, as if Black men were ever in any type of patriarchal role.
Delicate, interesting, because you want to say that, look, I'm the head of my household, right? I lead my household. I want to be an example for my wife and my children in my household. But I'm also like, I'm not confined to these pre-existing, antiquated, gender roles,
yeah,
right?
You want to answer great examples of that. You all talked about doing drop off and pick up with your kids.
Yeah, and I think
Andrew does ponytails.
Right, exactly.
I brush hair.
I don't understand. This is where I turned it off at before. I don't understand this. I mean, I literally don't understand this. You think it's emasculating to do your daughter's hair? To brush her hair? You don't feel like a man after doing that? You don't think you ought to wash dishes or pick up or drop off your kids at school or pick them up? I did it every single day. I can say this now. Sometimes I did it in the police cruiser. I mean, I did it every single day. I don't understand. I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand if is this, maybe I'm missing something. I think that I'm very much a masculine man. I don't have a problem with doing any of that. I would have done my daughter's hair more if I knew how to do it. I did the best I could. I did the best that I could, right? So, and look into the shock of their faces, right, when they're talking about this masculinity type of thing, right? I don't understand that. I'm going to rewind it here so we can get a little bit more to context. Now, the rest of this that I'm going to watch is going to be a fresh watch for me. So,
doing drop off and pick up with your kids.
Yeah, and I think
Andrew does ponytails.
Right, exactly.
I brush hair real well, and so I think, but we're redefining those roles, and because we like to do drop off and pick up, and because I like to say I do the really good shopping for my kids at H&M and Baby Gap and all of that stuff. I like Sadie to look fly, and I don't want them wearing mismatched athletic brands and stuff like. I think that's like redefining masculinity, but we're having those serious discussions, and I think that there are times, particularly over the past decade,
redefining masculinity and making sure your kids look good. I mean, I'm not about the I kind of understand the mismatched brand things, right? I kind of understand that, but obviously he has the financial means to do it. But you first of all, you do what you have to do. You do what you have to do in order to make it work. And maybe get them out of name brands altogether. That may be another conversation that needs to be had. But this is baffling to me as to what people are experiencing. If you feel as if you're too good to run a comb through your daughter's hair so she don't look a mess, brother, that's something on you. If you don't feel if your wife is working, in particular, if your wife is working, your girlfriend is working or whatever, and you feel too good to take her to get an outfit, I think that you got some I think that you have some issues. I did all that. Didn't take away from my masculinity at all. And then I did all that, coached, and went to work and wrestled with people. Sometimes. Sometimes I had to wrestle emotionally and mentally with the cops next to me.
Decade where we've been so consumed with, and I think Black Girl Magic is cheapening it, but we've been so consumed with having conversations about a specific gender and their success in a particular arena that many times many men, for whatever reason that may be, feel left out of that conversation. And I'm just saying,
well, Angela just cracked up there, but men have felt left out. They have felt left out of the conversation, but Angela doesn't. You can see she's got her eyes closed here, and really is just feeling some type of way about this particular conversation. But she's not willing to listen to some men who have felt left out, and many others have gone through the numbers here about how men have been left out. College education. Again, Diane Stewart wrote a book talking about all the things that Black men have gone through, and I mention her because she's an academic who's at least understood the plight that Black men have had to deal with: mass incarceration, targeting by police, left out. Democratic Party completely turned their backs on them. They had to spend $20 million about a campaign in order to learn how to speak to men and to all men. They don't even understand it, right? So this is not something that is a figment of our imagination. This is well documented in the literature. So, yeah, but Angela Rye is not buying it. Let me rewind it here a little bit.
I'm having conversations about a specific gender and their success in a particular arena that many times many men, for whatever reason that may be, feel left out of that conversation. And I'm just saying, it's there.
I feel frustrated by that.
This is Angela Rye speaking. She's now feel frustrated.
And it's not because I don't think it's valid. I'm frustrated that it is a valid gripe, and I'm frustrated about the wedge issue it has become for our people. And so I actually don't feel like it's a fake thing. It's not real. I've heard it so much, and I would say arguably it's not even just over the last decade, because I know like most of the men that I've dated have said that I'm intimidating. And it's like, what is intimidating about me? Or I've been told
maybe the look in your face when we just bring up the conversation of having a scowl. Maybe it's a lack of femininity. And I mean this with the best of intentions, right? She's got an aura and a presence about her that says, I'm going to one up you, and says, I'll bite your head off. It was obvious from the video, from the very first take of action on the video.
Even by Andrew's best friend, that I was emasculating in some way. And for me, I grew up in a house.
I don't want to, never mind.
It's just the people I roll with, man.
But I feel like it's the thing. I mean, not Andrew. I've dated Andrew's best friend back in the day. But I think that the thing that is frustrating is I grew up in a space. My dad is more feminist than me. So I grew up in a space where I was constantly celebrated, where I was urged to share my opinion. Tiff has heard how we talk. In some ways, it has some discomfort with the way that I'll talk to my dad like up here. And I get chin checked too. Sometimes he's like, I'm the father, okay? But I've never changed my tone to speak to a man. Maybe that wasn't the best teaching, but that is my truth. I have never thought that my thriving means that you have to suffer or that you can't win. I reject the scarcity mindset for the whole of our community. And I just am so frustrated that we can't all do that together.
And I think that is the biggest point that you've made, because
she is talking about and admitting that she has a certain presence and aura, and the way that she comes off that is off-putting to men. Sometimes her father has to say, hey, listen, I'm in charge up in here. Or, she's dated these different men and they haven't liked her aura, presence, and the way she shows up in the world, and the lack of what we were calling feminine presence, feminine essence. And that is something that she has to work on and learn. And just because, it's one thing it's one thing if one person said it, but if many men have said it and your own father has said it, then the mirror needs to be placed on yourself and say, okay, maybe I am intimidating. Maybe I am coming off a certain way. Maybe I need to, and if you're not willing to tone down the way you talk to people, then you're going to continue to get the results that you're getting. So if you don't want those results, you got to do something different. If you do the same thing you've always done, you're going to have the same thing you've always had. It seems obvious to me, but here we go.
I think the sun is bright enough. And I think that I would never want any woman in my life to dim their light by any stretch. I mean, we've worked too hard to help uplift, to get it to this point, to brighten it, to shine it. Please, God, never say to dim your light. Mm-hmm. I also think that there are certain men in our community who have been toiling in the vineyards, who are the city workers, who are the driving trucks, who help our lives go, who are the PAs, who are the dental assistants, who are the teachers' assistants. Even a young man right now at Claflin or FAM who are in Call Me Mr. or Clemson, who are toiling in this vineyard, or the engineers at FAM or North Carolina, whatever it may be, that while we're saying don't dim your light, we're also saying that there must be a concerted effort. There has to be a concerted effort to at least listen or uplift Black men as well.
Well,
a concerted effort to uplift Black men. Those people who are seemingly to be overlooked, those people who are the engineers, well, those are pretty high-paying people, but all the other people, the PAs that he mentioned, all the other people that he listed, the bus drivers and etc., there needs to be a concerted effort to lift them up, to appreciate them, and to make sure that the next group of young men coming up, that there's a concerted effort to help them, just like there has been a concerted effort to help the women out.
Good contribution.
I think this conversation is ongoing because I definitely think there's a lot of men who are feeling pain right now, and sometimes their pain comes off as hatred towards us as Black women, and I find that hurtful, and I find it in ways that it has crossed over into our politics.
It's like I'm gonna penalize all of us because I'm mad at you, and we don't even know where the anger is stemming from. Like, Andrew, I hate that you're silent in this conversation because it is.
We've had it. I could direct listeners back to episodes. We've had it.
Well,
I'm new here, so
you should have it.
So I think people have turned.
All I was getting ready to say was I hate that you're silent in this conversation because I think that people could end up watching this back and saying, "See, this is exactly what I mean." Mm-hmm. There's a conversation about how Black men fill in the ethos, and a Black man was silenced on a platform, and that I just want to be clear that that's not the intention. Andrew willfully choosing not to engage.
Silence.
It's choosing not to engage.
The conversation is.
I think it's exhausting,
and I also think it is self-fulfilling.
You said that. So in transparency for our viewers, Andrew did not want to talk about this.
Yeah, but I don't mind us talking about it.
But the three of us proceeded with the conversation, but I didn't understand what you were saying.
I can understand from a certain perspective because it is getting, even I'm kind of getting a little tired of it. In all honesty, I'm trying to, because we've diced. The reason that I think that, while I'm tired of it, the reason I do think that we need to continue to talk about it and to address it is because we don't know there is not, when I say we don't know the genesis of the problem, I'm saying that we have two different dynamics or answers to the problem. The men are saying women have got a bunch of handouts since since the end of slavery. They've gotten education. They were not lynched in the greatest numbers of men were, right? It was the men who were always put down, cast down. And then in the 1960s, when they finally get welfare benefits, they take that, and then also get access to college education in the 60s, 70s, 80s. Start going to college more. And so there was a focus, I think, that people would say on the women, and that same focus wasn't on men. If a woman had a child, then she would get certain benefits, while the man got put in jail and for not paying child support, or had his license taken away, thus continuing to further and inhibit his money-making abilities, thus putting a whole family in a negative bind, of course, the man himself, and it seemed like a little bit of hopelessness. So I can understand where Andrew Gillum is saying, it's exhausting talking about this, but we got to figure out and come to a one consensus as to what the problem is, where the problem came from, what the problem is today, and how we fix the problem going towards the future. If there's black girl magic, we got to have some kind of black boy magic. Full stop. Not where the ladies have invaded the space or taken it over. Or what about the girls? You have to do something specifically for the boys, and that, I think, is what's missing. As Angela doesn't seem to be understanding that particular prospect, and it's fine to say, okay, well, don't dim your light, and Bakari has said, okay, there's enough sun for all of us. However, we got to have a focus. If you want men to be leaders and men in the home and men to reading scores to get up and all the other problems and reduce our prison rates and mental health situations and all this other stuff that we talk about, then there has to be a focus on that. And that's what we are calling for.
We're saying self-fulfilling, like what
I
that means.
I think for some reason it is said enough from black women, some, that either out of jealousy or that a man is reacting the way he's reacting in response to the black woman. And sometimes a man is reacting the way he's acting with no consideration for the black woman. And that their feelings can be justified, can be real, can be hard come by without them being in contrast to your celebration. I don't experience that. I just personally do not experience a rejection of any black woman in my life because of her success.
Correct.
The men in my life don't measure whether or not they're worth anything by whether or not their woman is exalted more. I think it is more complex and more nuanced. And although it may make some feel good to believe that there's an army of men who are organized exclusively against black women, I don't find that to be the case.
What am I? So I don't want to offend men, and I
I feel
don't.
like we're saying the same thing.
And some,
So Tiffany Cross doesn't want to offend men, but one of the reasons that we think that she was let go from MSNBC because she kept going after men, and she called them Kevin Samuels, Tariq Nasheed quoting Kevin Samuels, loving something like that. Men and then she essentially said to get behind your women. Maybe I'll try to play that here and what this woman said at one time. All right, so this is Tiffany Cross when she was on MSNBC, and she is going to speak to this is part of the anger when they talk about where they don't know where this anger comes from, the frustration that comes from, because this is what we have listened to. This is just an example of what we have listened to and why some black men are just fed up with this particular war that we have going on.
but you feel ignored, and then you go over to the other side. Roland made a really legitimate point here. I will say, a lot of black men sometimes feel like they're ignored or they're put down, particularly sometimes even by black women in the media. So this is not that. But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored, and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor. So I'm not putting black men down, but sometimes it's like, well, some of you Kevin Samuels following Tariq Nasheed quoting people, please look at the truth and see what's happening and get in line with some of the black women. Is majority, like he said, vote Democrat, but that margin of people who can be plucked away from your people and go advance policies that harm your people, I just don't understand that.
You don't understand it. You Tariq Nasheed quoting Kevin Samuels, loving whatever she said. You don't understand it. This is why they're upset. This is not that. You feel ignored. You feel ignored? You feel ignored? But this is what you're dealing with. Get in line. Let's play that again. Let's play that again. Let me remove this. Let me remove this here. Here we go. Listen to this again. Pause it, break it down, think about this.
Roland made a really legitimate point here. I will say, you know, a lot of Black men sometimes feel like they're ignored or they're put down, particularly sometimes even by Black women in the media. So this is not
that. This is not me putting you down, but you Tariq Nasheed loving, ooh, you Tariq Nasheed, Kevin Samuels. You can't figure it out. Confused, hand on your chin. Don't know where it's coming from.
That, but I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored, and then
It always reminds me. Remember that movie? What was that movie? Ah, man. It's on the tip of my tongue there. When the crazy woman there boiled the dude's rabbit, boiled the dude's rabbit, the kid's rabbit, fate something, Glenn Close. I can't remember the name of the movie. And one of the things, he was having an affair. Michael Douglas was having an affair with Glenn Close, whatever the characters were. I can't think of the name of the movie. It's going to bother me. Hold on. Fatal Attraction. I had to look it up. In that movie, right, when she was like, I'm not going to be ignored. That's all I hear, right? She just anger and you're going to pay attention to me. You feel ignored? It's just crazy. You feel ignored? Really? Yeah, we feel ignored. We feel ignored.
you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor. So
she's talking about this is an administration that was talking about, excuse me, this is the voting time. I think this is Trump won. I think Black men could play a critical role in the Georgia elections. This is Trump won. This is how long we've been dealing with this type of thing.
this is not that. But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored, and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor. So I'm not putting Black men down, but sometimes it's like, well, some of you Kevin Samuels following Tariq Nasheed quoting people, please look at the truth and see what's happening and get in line with some of the Black women. Is majority, like he said, vote Democrat. But that margin.
Get in line. This hits wrong. She probably didn't mean it with the much vitriol that it came out with, but it hits wrong. It hit wrong. Here we go. Let's finish this out here.
You are.
Possible.
In some ways you are, but I do think there is a sliver of Black men who are the opposite of you, Andrew. And
there's going to be that. I mean, we're not a monolith, so
Yeah,
there is going to be that in the infant. But I think, piggybacking on Andrew's point slightly, I think that when sometimes the response that we have to Black women is not because of Black women.
Amen.
And I think that one of the things that you said, Tiffany, was I think that, Black men take it out on us because of, and I think what Andrew and I are saying is that sometimes it's just hard. And maybe we're not equipped enough at that particular moment to manage expectation, emotion, all of those things. And the brunt of that is taken out on our partner. We live in highly segregated communities, or the people we interact with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
However,
Which is probably true in white households.
we might conclude.
And the story emanating from that isn't that white men hate white women.
Correct.
Or that they respond this way because they're jealous of their white wives.
Correct.
But any reaction that we might have that is not the one that is expected by the Black woman on the opposite you, literally opposite you, is that we're that way because they're winning.
Yeah.
And that's my point is that I don't care. I don't care. I uplift your winning. I appreciate your winning, but there also has to be space for me.
There does have to be space for you. And by the way, that you would expect there to be space for you, even if she wasn't uplifted and in celebration moment. Just as she would expect that there's going to be space for her. I was running for governor. I was being mayor. I was, doing all these things.
I did not mean me individually.
No, I know that.
No,
But what
but
I'm saying is that I'm doing all of those things, and I'm not coming home with the expectation that you're going to lift me up on every leaning side and make me feel like I'm the star and I hung it too. Relationships are complex. There's a lot that goes in.
I'm actually going to leave it up there. You guys go over and watch the rest of the video. I don't want to get a strike or whatever. I haven't watched the rest of this. I'll probably pause this, but I wanted to kind of just lay the groundwork that at least they're trying to have the conversation. And I do at least appreciate that they're at least trying to have the conversation. I think that what men, these are conversations that we're having in the men's space, in particular the black men's space, as to what is going on. And I think that, from my time of listening, and you guys can chime in the comment section here, is I think that the men are running into women who feel as if they are somehow superior to them, particularly because of educational levels or whatever. Now we know that, and this is obviously not everyone, but it was important enough for these people to have this conversation. It's one thing if it's just a conversation of a bunch of dusty dudes on the internet that are having this conversation, but these are all highly successful people, and they're talking about this, and and they're running into that. And remember, Angela said that she's running into men who are saying that she's intimidating, men who are well-to-do enough to be around Andrew Gillum, former mayor, former gubernatorial candidate. And if you're running into these type of men who are saying this type of thing, well, maybe it's time to listen. And I think that a lot of times these men feel talked down to, as if their accomplishments aren't good enough. I mean, why is a man overlooked because he doesn't have a higher education degree? Because you can't rub elbows with whatever. Why is that man looked down upon? And I think that's a big part of the problem, is that these men are feeling as if they are sunned and not good enough, and not appreciated, and aren't somehow in charge of the communities, or running their communities. And this is enough of an issue for them to talk about it. And Andrew Gillum has now said, or we watched, where he said he had checked out of the conversation not because he wasn't interested, but because he had talked about it. And we can all talk about it, but we gotta at some point come up with some solutions to this problem, to this issue. And until we come to that, all these conversations aren't going to do anything. And that's myself included. What is the answer to this? Is the answer to, and Andrew Gillum made up a good point, that this is probably a conversation that's going on in white households. But the question is a white woman who's achieved a certain level of educational success then looking down to her man and thinking somehow that he's less than? And that seems to be what they're agreeing is going on in this particular context. So I wanted to read a couple of comments here, and then we'll call it for this particular episode. Again, you can go over and watch that, right? So this says, Shani, I'm saying this with love for our community, not from a place of blame, but there are conversations black men need to start having with each other. There's emotional work, accountability, and leadership that no one else, not even black women, can do for them. Black women had to face our wounds alone. We built healing language through therapy, faith, and self-reflection because no one else was coming to rescue us. The same journey now belongs to black men. I'm not sure I agree with that. I think that black men have been having a lot of conversations. We had conversations in barbershops. While that may be looked at as a negative thing, I think the Black Minister is a place for conversations, and to understand our journey, and to come to some level of understanding, and to work out what issues we have. And if it can't be silenced or put to shame, but we got to be able to have these conversations amongst each other. Too often, black men are shielded from accountability. I don't know, even by other men. I don't know where she gets that from. Black men have been held accountable. Black men are so good at being held accountable that we are held accountable for crimes that we didn't even commit. I mean, we are all blamed for the select few or who are out there having children out of wedlock. Even though 66% of black men, you can go to demographics.com, look at all these numbers. 66% of black men who have children are actually living within the homes. So, we got to. This was my pushback against Dr. Chiaku, right? We got to get the real numbers about this, and can't keep saying these things that just aren't true. We had male dominant spaces that are no longer male dominated, and then you want us to have conversations and work out what we're working out. We see brothers absent from homes, battling each other, harboring anger, and with no outlet. And instead of reaching back, too many look away. I think again they look away because. If they are indeed looking away, it's because they feel as if there's no place for them. They're unwanted, not respected, because they they don't have a degree or whatever. I mean, and many times they just feel as if they're unwanted and unloved, and they're looking for that respect in the home, just like every other male is looking for respect. So many times they're going overseas. That cycle cannot be broken by women. It has to be men calling other men into fatherhood, emotional maturity, whatever that means, integrity, and love for community. And I say this gently but truthfully, many Black women don't always feel protected by the very men we've spent generations protecting. We have shown up, marched, prayed, and sacrificed, but protection must be mutual. Love must move both ways. I'm hearing this a lot more. I need to see more understanding of that. I'm trying to get to that. And I'm not going to invalidate those feelings, because it's come across my feed a couple of times that there is a protection aspect that is missing, and we need to have that conversation. And again, there's a whole, it's a complex issue, because we could say, well, the ladies are saying, well, we don't feel protected, and then the guys will come back and say, well, you're choosing these wrong Pookies and Ray Rays because you think that because he's a tough thug that he's going to protect you when the times get rough. Now he'll throw you right under the bus with his other boys. He don't care who gets caught with the gun, who gets caught with this. So he's going to bounce on you. He's in survival mode. He's in a mode of just taking care of himself. So we're trying to get ladies to say to actually stop selecting those types of men and recognize that those types of men are no good for the community. So you got to stop breeding with them. You got to stop rewarding them with sex. This is not about tearing Black men down. It's about restoring balance, because we cannot march, vote, or protect Black kings out of a way of internal accountability can repair. The healed Black man, the wise Black man, they must lead that work not through blame or podcast, but through mentorship, correction, and presence. We all want to win, but we don't win without truth. And the truth is, until Black men hold each other accountable and protect Black women the way we protected them, our community will keep recycling the same pain. Black women did our healing. Now it's time for the men to do theirs. But I would say that there's still a little bit of more work to do. And the reason I can confidently say that is because we know, let me see if I have the statistics here. Do I have them here? All right, actually, I can't pull up the stats. My computer's about to freeze or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I can't get to them. But if you go over to blackdemographics.com, you can look at the fertility rates of men and women, and you can really do an analysis and a comparison as to what's going on between them. Again, I don't want to sound like I'm attacking. I want to attack the problem, and part of the problem is misinformation. It's not about attacking Black men. It's not about, for me, it's not about attacking Black women, but it's about attacking misinformation, disinformation. And that's what I think is going on for far too long. Go over to blackdemographics.com and read through how many babies people are having, who's having the babies, how many men are inside the home when the child, or living in the home, whether it's actual marriage or actually just at least cohabitation. Just look at all those types of statistics, and you'll be able to gain a better picture as to what's going on. Or you can go over to Medium Man's channel, because he's constantly breaking down those stats, right? So I just want to drop this here just to kind of keep the conversation going. We got to, and part of the conversation is getting to these accurate stats. Do I think that there should be mentorship? Were you able to see all that I had on the screen there? I don't know if you were able to see it. I read all this stuff, right? I read all that from right there. So I want you to be able to go over to understand, what is going on, what has happened, and we got to figure this thing out together. And I disagree, and I was very much bothered when Angela Rice said, "No, I didn't say that. We all we got." Because the truth of the matter is that we are 1% of white men. I think it's less than 1%. Let's just say it's 1% of white men who are married to a Black woman. So, they're nobody's picking either one of us really in mass like that. Most people will always go for their own race, their own culture, their own ethnicity. And we got to figure that out and stop with this other nonsense about trying to date out and all this kind of stuff. Is it true that there's not enough eligible Black men in order to go around? If every Black man wanted to get married, there's not enough women. It's just the way that it is. But we certainly ought to increase the number of eligible men who want to get married. And as long as they have their pick of the litter, then this is the situation that you're gonna get. So I made this long enough. Let me know your thoughts and your opinions. Hit me in the comment section. Go over to this channel there. Read through the rest of those comments. They're all pretty good. Watch the rest of the video. Until next time, much love and peace.